An orphan girl named Heidi is being taken to the Swiss Alps to live with her grandfather after living with her Aunt Dete for 5 years without being allowed to leave the house. Dated, has landed a job in Frankfurt, and is unable to bring Heidi with her. As a result, she disregards the neighbors' warnings that Grandpa might be dangerous and unsocial on their way up the mountain. Grandpa El Pole is furious when he sees them arrive and kicks them out as soon as Heidi takes off her dress and boots to run around in her underdress. She prefers the freedom of movement to be fashionable, claiming to be leaving with a child and stating that he does not want to miss the girl's day. However, in actuality, she hides Heidi behind the house and tells him that she drinks herself to death. He notices this and yells at Day. However, Heidi refuses to accept the girl in his life, Alpo, and informs him that she does not want him either. Heidi decides to sleep in the woods after he enters his house and locks the door. The following morning, Liquor gives Heidi some goat milk as breakfast and afterward takes her to chapel. The cleric investigates Heidi and pronounces her solid and solid. He believes Alpo. However, grandfather will not change his mind. The priest adds that he will be traveling to May and Fall in 3 days so that he can bring Heidi along to see if any farmers will use her when they return home. Heidi considers whether she should once more sleep in the barn. Additionally, he informs her that she may sleep wherever she chooses. He only has 1 bed and 1 chair due to alcohol. Heidi searches for one more spot and finds a bunch of steps that she moves to find an upper room loaded with roughage, subsequent to concluding that will be her room level, that she would prefer not to leave, yet finds no solution. The next day, Peter visits the goat herd to retrieve our poet's goats. After alcohol gives Heidi some cheese and sausage for lunch, Grandpa gets the chance to ask him to take Heidi with him for the day and maybe even show her how things are done in the mountains. Rather than spending the entire day inside the house, as her aunt used to make her do, Heidi is delighted to join Peter and spend the day running with the goats. Peter eats some of Heidi's food while she is having fun. Then, at that point, faults it. Peter strikes 2 goats with a when Heidi notices that they are fighting and Heidi strongly disapproves. She then makes a deal to get him to stop. If he never again hits a goat, she'll give half of her food to him. Peter is happy to accept. But he asks her to promise not to tell Alpo about him because there are rumors in the town that he has killed someone before. When Heidi gets back to her house, she acts awkwardly in front of her grandfather and declares that she will sleep in the barn. So, while Poe quickly concludes that she has heard the rumors, he asks Heidi whether she believes more rumors or none at all. Before turning in for the night in the attic, Heidi makes her own decision and gives Alpo a hug. The following day, while Heidi and Peter, Alpo continue to have fun and bond. To demonstrate how touched he is by his granddaughter, he performs some carpentry work. Heidi is surprised to find a second chair at the table when she gets home. In some fabulous news, Alpo will permit her to remain for. After a few weeks, Heidi and Peter still have fun every day. She even cuts her hair to make herself feel more at ease. Peter informs her one day that he will be attending school for the next few months, so he won't be coming. Therefore, they will reunite in the spring. However, she ought to pay him a visit at his home. Also, Heidi wants to attend school. Alpo is also reminded by the neighbors whenever they visit town that a child needs friends and an education. Alpo, however, he declines, explaining that Heidi will not be able to descend the mountain to attend school at that time. When alcohol begins to snow, things become monotonous. He makes Heidi a small bird out of wood to help her feel better, but it doesn't do much good. He then attempts to construct a sleigh. Actually, this works well. And they have a good time killing each other down the mountain before the alcohol runs out. Heidi meets Peter's mother and grandmother, but his father has passed away. Due to her missing most of her teeth, the grandmother cannot eat much because she is blind. Which is a problem because they only have stale bread to eat. Peter isn't doing well in school, and he doesn't get why he has to learn to read when he doesn't need to for her goats. However, when he comes to pick Heidi up, his mother tells him that she has realized how fortunate she is to have him. She won't let him quit. Additionally, Heidi and her grandfather lead happy, tranquil lives. Day returns one day announcing that she has found Heidi a nice place with her employers where she can make friends and attend school. In any case, Liquor won't permit Heidi to leave and calls attention to how Dated out of nowhere thinks often about her niece. All of the deity's embarrassment responds. She only left Heidi at the time because she had no choice. She uses alcohol to argue with him to change his mind. Day then pretends to leave, but she actually goes deeper into the mountains to find Heidi, so he offers again. Day tells her elbow when Heidi responds that she wants to stay the day. Additionally, he wants her to be the best for Heidi, who is upset. Also, Peter sees this when he returns the goats to liquor. Granddad sees Heidi has gone and rapidly thinks about what occurred. He therefore sprints to the town. But it's too late when he gets there. The neighbors make fun of alcohol for Date's breakup with Heidi. Heidi is taken to the seasonal mansion in Frankfurt, where he meets Sebastian, the butler, the maid, tenant, and most importantly, the governor. Due to the fact that Heidi appears to be a wild child with no manners, this Rottenmeier lady is not pleased to see her. However, Day reminds her that this is what they requested. A young child who hasn't been spoiled enough to be friends with the houses. Even though Kid Clara is old, the demands in leaves are part of the deal. Clara meets Heidi, who is confined to a wheelchair and cannot walk. The girls instantly clicked. And when Heidi pushes Clara's chair against the table by accident, Clara tells Rottenmeier that it was her because she wants to protect her. In order for Heidi to be accepted as Clara's companion, she needs to learn a lot. They wash her, teach her table manners, dress her appropriately, and prohibit her from running around the house or being loud. Everyone is shocked when Heidi admits she must also take Clara's classes. She can't get rid of her until Clara's dad returns from his trip, so Meyer and Rod want to get rid of her. Therefore, in the interim, the instructor must instruct Heidi in reading while maintaining Clara's pace. Heidi quickly adjusts to the house's rules, but she doesn't completely change and keeps most of her quirks. She still prefers the outdoors to a house and still dreams every night of the mountains. Additionally, she conceals bread whenever she can. Stuffed in her pockets, she and Clara become extremely close. Clara shares what happened to her after she became so well that she lost her ability to walk because of this bond. Because her father is always away on business trips, before Heidi came along, she felt alone and confined in this house. Heidi asks Sebastian to open a window for her when she refuses to take her usual nap one afternoon. Sadly, she is still unable to see the mountains, prompting Sebastian to explain that she would need to climb the city tower to see them from here. After that, as it is never allowed, Heidi sneaks out of the house and shows her around the city. Clara waits by the door when they find the city tower while Heidi climbs as high as she can, only to be disappointed to find that she is not even up here. The mountains are viewable, while Rottenmeier is in a state of panic when she is unable to locate the girls and sends all of the servants out to look for them. Clara's mood improves when she discovers a person selling kittens and decides to buy all of them back at the house. Sebastian is the one who finds them. Fortunately, Clara as well uses the blanket that came with the kitties to cover them. Prior to his seeing them, Rottenmeier tries to scold them when they get home, but she ends up sneezing a lot because of her allergies. The cat also suddenly jumped off Clara's lap, frightening Meyer to the point where she climbs furniture and makes everyone laugh, scaring her so badly. Heidi is banned from eating later at dinner as a punishment. She must, instead, stand in the room's corner with her back to the wall. Rod and Meyer promise to send her to the cellar with the rats the following time throughout the meal. This is unacceptable to Heidi. So after supper, she attempts to leave after retrieving all of the bread rolls she had saved for Peter's grandmother. Rod and Meyer stops her, reminding her she is fortunate to get extravagant garments and legitimate instruction, yet what genuinely causes Heidi to feel terrible is seeing a disheartened Clara crying and hurrying to her room. Clara continues to refuse to leave her room while Ned explains her horrible dreams ever since that day. She's debilitated and faults Heidi for it. Feeling much more dreadful now, Heidi visits Clara once her primary care physician says she's feeling improved and consoles her it's not on the grounds that she can't stand her. Despite Clara's comprehension, she still doesn't want Heidi to leave because she is all. Clara gets back to leaving her room and going to classes now that Heidi is back by her side. However, reading is not easy for Heidi. Clara's father, Mr. C. Easement, finally returns home a few days later, bringing with him grandmother C. Easement, which Rottenmeier is not happy to do. Both C's men are pleased to finally meet Heidi, and Clara is thrilled to see her family again. Mr. Seized, in particular, is delighted with Clara's improved appearance as a result of his suggestion to get her a friend. However, Rottenmeier explains in an effort to change his mind. Heidi maintains her Wilden. Notwithstanding, Grandma C. Easement would prefer to affirm it with her own eyes than trust. The word of Rodney Myers later at night, Grandma C's men reads a bedtime story to Heidi, but she doesn't finish it because she wants to. Peter said that reading was pointless, so Heidi admits that she can't. As a result, Grandmother C. Easement cautions her against believing everything she hears. Grandmother Seaman tells her son that Heidi is wonderful and that she can learn to read with the right encouragement because Heidi loves stories and is desperate to know how this one ends. The following day, Heidi agrees to put in more effort and practice more frequently. But because this house goes against everything she can tell that the child is unhappy. Because Heidi makes Clara happy, Mr. Seaman refuses to let her go. However, Grandmother Seaman points out that he wishes she stayed because she makes him feel less guilty about constantly leaving Clara alone. When strange noises start echoing throughout the house each night, things don't get any easier. Additionally, Sebastian occasionally finds the front door unlocked. The house may be haunted, according to Rottenmeier and all the servants. Yet, Mr. Ocean's men doesn't trust it. Heidi spends more time reading the book that her grandmother looks at each day. Men left her and at last figures out how to peruse the entire story to everybody. The educator assumes all the praise, and Mr. Sailor concludes this shows Heidi is adequate too. Clara is overjoyed about this, but Heidi is upset and cries every night before going to sleep. Mr. Seismic and the doctor are playing chess one evening after the grandmother's seizure has already returned to her own residence when they suddenly hear the noises that the servants had warned about. The men get their firearms, figuring it very well might be criminals, yet it turns out it's simply Heidi sleepwalking. Every night, she goes down, opens the door, and looks off into the distance before going back to her room and sleeping on the end of the bed, just like she would with a goat. Mr. C searches the closet for a blanket and discovers a new pile of bread rolls for Heidi when the doctor checks on her and finds that she is freezing. Then Heidi awakens, and when the specialist inquires as to whether she is in torment, Heidi makes sense of her chest harms subsequently. The specialist sits down to talk with Mr. C's men in private to make sense of. Heidi should initially be sent home because she is ill with homesickness and her nerves are quite frayed. Mr. C's rejects. The next morning, when Clara inquires about the ghost, her father explains that it was Haiti sleepwalking because she is suffering, which is why they will be sending her home. He then spends the night thinking about what happened to his wife. This news causes Clara to cry like Heidi and throw a fit of rage. Heidi is pleased to learn that Clara will return to consuming alcohol before she leaves for her bedroom. Despite her efforts, Clara refuses to open her door. The servants prepare a basket stuffed with bread rolls and other foods for Heidi to take with her when it's time for her to leave. Heidi, Hans, and Mr. Seasoner promise Clara will visit them one day because they wouldn't give it up for her. After Heidi is gone spoiled, Meyer brings up they'll at last experience harmony once more. However, karma quickly shows her wrong. A kitten is still roaming the house. As Rottenmeier rushes to the net in a state of panic, he decides to name the kitten Heidi. The first thing Heidi does when she gets back to town is take off her boots and go back to. She drops off the food and says hello at his house. After that, she runs up the mountain, taking off her fancy dress, and she finally sees her beloved grandfather again. Heidi quickly returns to her previous routine, which involves running through the mountains with Peter and causing harm to the goats. However, there are still a few. She is now permitted to attend school. She and Alpo moved into a townhouse with the goats during the winter. Compared to Clarice, her new teacher is much more strict. Additionally, misbehavior can result in physical punishment at times. Her class chuckles at her when she admits she needs to be an essayist when she grows up. However, unlike Peter, she does well in her studies. Who still struggles to read, despite Heidi's efforts to assist him. Throughout the interesting events, Heidi writes letters to Clara, expressing how much she misses her. Clara feels bad because she didn't even say goodbye when the letter gets to her. As a result, Grandmother C's easement brings together a number of servants. While the girls reunite with joy, they carry Clara up the mountain. During a drink with Alpo, grandmother Seaman asks if Clara would like to stay for a few days and offers to pay a fee. Alcohol gladly accepts, but declines the cash, claiming that Clara is a. Now it is Height's turn to teach her friend about mountain life. Clara begins to eat and dress only in her undergarment. She likewise will pet the goats. Watch a shooting star as you sleep on hay. The entire time, the girls are together. And Peter is extremely envious of that. He won't participate in their activities. When Heidi invites him, he goes alone and hurts because Clara can't go up there in her wheelchair. Furthermore, Heidi wants to remain with her. Peter arrives one morning before the girls are awake and locates the wheelchair. Before he runs away with the goats, his jealousy kicks in and causes him to throw the chair off a cliff. Al Paul makes a guess as soon as the family notices that the chair has disappeared. As a result, he has Clara on his back. Along with Heidi, they also follow the typical goat. Clara can now finally see the rest of the mountains, while Peter is made to watch over the girls for the rest of the time because of alcohol. Clara enjoys the pretty flowers and view. Additionally, the adorable little butterfly that lands on her foot. At the point when the butterfly takes off, Clara is frantic to make it stay and attempts to get it, stunning everybody by abruptly standing up. She still has trouble walking, though. Therefore, with the assistance of Heidi and Peter, she spends the subsequent days practicing. When Clara's grandmother Seaman arrives to pick her up, who has changed his mind about her since seeing the miracle. Later, her son is with her and keeps yelling angrily because he doesn't like the idea of his ill daughter being brought here. Be that as it may, he alters his perspective before long when Clara approaches them, utilizing her own feet. After exchanging hugs and tears, Heidi was given by grandmother Seaman a notebook and a pen so she can begin writing stories. She was also reminded to ignore the mean comments made by her classmates because everyone should do what makes them happy. In the wake of bidding farewell to Clara with a warm embrace, Heidi gets back to her day-to-day daily practice with Peter. However, she will now carry a notebook with her so that she can occasionally write. Turn on notifications, please subscribe for more videos like this, and like the channel to support it. Thank you very much for watching.